Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports, and we have got confirmation that the British and Irish Lions will in fact be in action this weekend, and a rematch. The first time in history we will see a rematch between the British and Irish Lions and a local union. They will be up against the Sharks once again on Saturday following a 54-7 demolition last night. So a couple of interesting reactions to this, and I personally am not going to lie, I'm a little bit disappointed about it. I can understand the reasoning, I can understand the logic behind it. Look, first and foremost, I'm very excited that we'll get another match on the weekend. We will actually have some weekend rugby to look forward to, apart what would have been two Currie Cup clashes. So I suppose in that regard, it's good to have rugby, but I think that they could have been a bit more inventive. Before we look at the details of the match themselves and look at what they could have done and what the situation was that has actually resulted in this game having to take place, please do smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. So we all knew that the Bulls versus the Lions this weekend had already been called off with a view to try and postpone the game in a couple of weeks' time, and we still don't know what is going to be the start of that. At this stage, the press release said that they've replaced the Vodacom Bulls with the South Sea Sharks at Lofts on Saturday, kickoff at 6 o'clock South African Standard Time. So, from the sounds of it, this could be instead of the Bulls game. So we might actually have a Bulls versus British and Irish Lions game, which I think would be very, very sad. I suppose it'll come down to the British and Irish Lions, whether Warren Gatland side will be prepared to play an additional game in the sort of midweek. Look, in the past we've had 10 match tours, so it would only be a 9 match if they did it in between the test matches like that. So it could still be an option. From a commercial point of view, it's more money, it's more sponsorship revenue and stuff like that, it's more TV rights, stuff like that. So, you kind of understand if they do go that route, but unfortunately, it's quite a lot that they have to try and get done if that were to be the case. So instead, they have agreed that the Sharks will just take them on again, because the Sharks, and they said that the choice of the South Sea Sharks was dictated by the fact that they have been in the bubble, they have returned negative tests throughout, and prepared to take on the fixture. So the Sharks, of course, are prepared to take on the fixture. I mean, come on, you want more eyes on the ground there. But I think my frustration is that the Lions, the Sigma Lions, on Monday, as soon as the Bulls returned negative, those sort of those cases in the game would be, why did they not go immediately to the Sigma Lions and say, right, we're going to have to chuck you in a bubble. Right now, where the Bulls are going to go into, we're going to put you in there instead. Test them, see what happens, and with a view of maybe combining the sides. And we could have then had today and tomorrow to have tried, having 2 or 3 training sessions to try and put together a little bit of a combined side. Why couldn't we have had a Sharks and Lions, a Natal, a coastal, a North Coastal, barbarian side, an invitational side, or why couldn't you, I just think that they could have been a little bit more innovative with this. As I said, they could have put the Lions, for example, they could have had PCR tests on Monday or on Tuesday, and they could have then sort of said, cool, into a bubble, and as long as they've all got the negative tests and stuff like that, let's go ahead with it. And they could have been training separately, and then literally after the last night's game, they could have been tested yesterday, and providing that all the Sigma Lions returned, negative tests, they could have then combined with the Sharks. We could have had a bit of a combined side, which I think would have been a lot more competitive than the Sharks side, which has already been beaten 54-7, now playing a different British and Irish Lions side on Saturday, which I think we're probably going to have a similar result. For the Sharks, it's a massive ask for them to be able to go full 80 against British and Irish Lions on Wednesday and go for a full 80 again on Saturday. It's going to be exactly the same squad. We might see a couple of changes we will have to see a couple of changes starting out. For example, Hiron Andrews going off injured. Is Marius Lowe fully fit? He had a bit of an injury concern there. So they could see a couple of tweaks from the Sharks' point of view, but I just think it's difficult for me to get excited again for Sharks versus the British and Irish Lions. And I really think that they could have. I think what we should have been doing is from when the Lions landed, I think in hindsight they'll probably agree, when the Lions landed in South Africa, every single domestic team should have been in a buy bubble. And yes, they would have started the Currie Cup fixtures, but and traveling and stuff like that. But for example, the Western Province were at home on Wednesday, so they could have been in a bye bubble. And yes, it would have technically been broken when they played the Griquas, but keep them in bubble. The Sigma Lions, probably they would have left their bubble. But the Bulls should have been in a bye bubble from a long time ago. They should have been last week. As I said, from when the Lions arrived, they should have been in a bubble so that. If there were issues, for example, maybe the Sigma Lions had issues last week, you could have then said, right, the Bulls will now play on Saturday, the Sigma Lions will be shifted a week, or the Sigma Lions will play on Wednesday, and the Sharks will then play on Saturday. I think that we probably needed to be a little bit more fluid in terms of what we were doing in preparation and keeping these sort of bye bubbles going, because it also means, for example, if the Lions are in a bye bubble, for example, and like the Springbok outbreak, it means you can suddenly bring players straight into the Springbok bubble, and they would have already hopefully been part of a bye bubble, hopefully already tested negative and stuff like that, and we could have maybe even sort of worked out a bit of a Georgian game. Obviously, the positive test in the Georgia camp would have prevented that this weekend, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So I think that there probably could have been a bit more sort of planning as regards to being more fluid. So we will have another game, which is really good on Saturday. I think that's probably a good thing. I'm a bit bleak that at this stage it looks like we probably won't get a Bulls clash. I think that was supposed to be probably the biggest clash. I think it has to be a massive loss for the tour if it doesn't happen. But I'm just disappointed that we weren't a bit more innovative. I think a combined side of the Lions and Sharks, obviously they wouldn't have had time to train together and gel together. But we saw how a Toyota Invitational side beat the Cheetahs. Sometimes these invitational sides can do something. And if nothing else, it would have just been different. We've seen the Sigma Lions play the British and Irish Lions. We've seen the Sharks play the British and Irish Lions. What we haven't seen is maybe the best of the two having a go. Let's see. Faison Barto, the front row, Steve Satoli, and Carly Sardi. Let's see a loose trio of Vince Tuka, Pepsi Buthelezi, and maybe like a Dylan Richardson or a Jaco Creel or somebody like that. Let's put the two Hendrickson brothers together on the field, see what they can do. I just think it would have been a bit different, because at the moment we're literally going to watch what we think's been the same thing. And I think the Sharks probably put a better fight. I think that they would have learned a lot from Wednesday, and we'll be able to see if they can kind of put that into practice on Saturday. It'll be an all new British and Irish Lions team though, so yeah, it's a bit frustrating that we're going to have to try and watch the entire sort of same spectacle again, but I suppose the main thing is that there will be rugby on Saturday. It's very much commercially driven at the moment, which, people complain, it's all about the sponsors, it's all about the commercial. It is, but at the end of the day, SA Rugby have lost a lot of money as a result of COVID-19. We've got to make this money back. It's so important for our unions, for SA Rugby, for our players, that this tour happens from a financial perspective. Yeah, it's not just the players as well. It's the unions that need the money. It's the broadcasters that need the money. It's your journalists that need the money. It's a lot of different sort of people that are coming together, and it really is impacts a lot of people. This sort of tour doesn't go through, and it's impacted tourism. Yes, whilst we might not have fans, for example, we still got the British and Irish Lions and the Springboks all staying at hotels and paying a lot of money. And paying money for various facilities. They're still using airlines, they're still using caterers, they're still using security, they've got bus drivers. There's so many parts of our economy which are still benefiting from the tour, even if there aren't any tourists. So whilst not benefiting as much as it would be, it still is. If there was no rugby, as I said, there'd be no bus companies, there'd be no drivers, there'd be no security, there'd be no security on the fields. The groundsmen, for example, like an FME stadium and stuff like that, they would have lost in revenue. So there's still a lot of value commercially in terms of the South African economy from this tour. And that's why it's so important that it does continue, which is why, it's important that the Saturday game does happen. But I think if we lose that Bulls game, that will be a massive, massive loss to the entire tour. Because I think that was probably the most eagerly anticipated game. They are the only team in the history of the British and Irish Lions in South Africa, the only union to have actually beaten them back in 99 or 98 or 97, back then. So yeah, that's the situation. So obviously we'll be live on Saturday for it. Don't stress, we'll make sure that we're live. We're supposed to be live anyway, so we'll make sure that we are live. We'll also be live tomorrow for Curry Cup. We'll have a preview up for the the Pumas versus the Cheetahs tomorrow. Much better Cheetah side being named as well, and the Pumas looking really, really red hot. So Lakanya will be with you tomorrow. He'll also be with you on Saturday morning for New Zealand versus Tonga. So lots and lots of rugby planned from our side. Smash like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you guys soon.